CFFC 94 Hafez versus Cuts in the main event for the CFFC welterweight belt. Evan Cuts and Basil Hafez. That fight is a 4-round main event. 4 5-minute rounds in the main event for the CFFC welterweight belt. Basil Hafez only has one fight inside the CFFC where he won the belt, and he was a heavy underdog against Christina Savoy, who was undefeated at the time. Nobody, and I mean nobody, thought he was going to win the fight. 97% going for Savoy to win the fight, mainly by KO TKO. And he looked really good. Got the takedown early, got on top, went for an armbar, almost got that armbar in the first round, like 2 minutes into the round, but got reversed, and right when Christian Savoy got on top of him, after that little scramble, he latched in the triangle choke so fast and got it with 45 seconds left in the round. It was a really impressive performance from a guy that I honestly did not think he was going to win that fight, but now he's fighting Evan Cuts, 11 wins and 4 losses, who also has a lot of submissions on his record, 8 submission wins and 3 decision wins. So there's a really good grappling fight in the main event right here. Who knows if they have really good grapplers fighting each other in a 4-round main event like this one? Who knows if they're gonna make it a grappling fight, or if they're both really good grapplers? Maybe they just don't even test their grappling on the ground and just make it a full-on striking fight. Who knows what's gonna happen in the fight? We have Devin Goodell and Paliev in the co-main event. Solomon Renfro, an absolute beast of a wrestler, taking on Nick Alley. We have Jonathan Parisima and Thomas Majewski. Thomas Majewski is an absolute beast. Frank Wells and Timothy Quamba. Earl Small, this dude's an absolute beast for sure. Taking on Adam Walmsley, Cody Zappone, and James Leon's absolute domination right there. And then Joey Tazzano and Mahmoud. This fight's a really good striking fight. We're not going to look at these amateur fights just because, you know, they're amateur fights, but we're gonna look at the first fight that is a professional fight. Joey Tazzano and Mahmoud. This fight is a featherweight fight. Joey Tazzano, 2 wins and 1 loss. 1 loss as a professional fighter to Isaiah Monroe by first round anaconda choke submission. The man is an amazing striker. A decision win over Troy Sterling. Second round knockout, winning 12 seconds in that second round. As an amateur, second round knockout, third round knockout, second round knockout, third round knockout, and first round knockout. And he actually did end up beating Dennis Bozukia, who got a shot in Dana White's Contender Series around a couple of months ago. So he beat him as an amateur, did really good after that, getting pretty much like 6 knockout wins in a row. Has a lot of power, and so does Mahmoud, who has 1 win and 1 loss. As an amateur, did really good with a lot of knockout wins in literally just 1 minute combined in those three fights. So 7 seconds, 18 seconds, and then 35 seconds in the first round. Really impressive amateur wins that he had in PA cage fight. But when he became a pro in 2018, got a decision win, then fought Vladimir Kazbekov and lost the fight by split decision. Now that was back in 2018. That was about, let's see, almost 3 years ago. Joey Tazzano in the last 3 years has had 5 fights combined as an amateur and as a pro. So he's been fighting much more often than Joey Tazzano has been fighting. They both have a lot of power in their hands. Mahmoud hasn't really shown to have as much power in his professional career as he did as an amateur fighter. Joey Tazzano, I mean, the man's power is just, it's unmatched in his last couple of fights. His last fight, he did lose to Isaiah Monroe, who just took him down easily and got the submission. But Mahmoud is not going to get the submission. He's not going to get the fight down and go for submission. So that's kind of where Joey Tazzano has his weakness, is in the ground game, in the wrestling. But Mahmoud doesn't have the wrestling, doesn't have the striking, does not have the grappling. So I think this fight is going to stay on the feet, and just because Joey Tazzano has stayed a lot more active in the featherweight division inside of CFFC, and shown he has a lot of power in his hands, especially for a featherweight fighter. I'm probably going to go with Joey Tazzano to maybe get a KO TKO in the first or second round. But this fight could go all the way. We have seen a lot of power from Joey Tazzano, so I'm expecting a knockout, but who knows? The fight could go all the way, and Joey Tazzano could win the fight by unanimous decision. After that, we have a pretty big domination. James Leon's and Cody Zappone. I'm going to say right now, James Leon's is going to win the fight. 0 wins and 0 losses as a professional fighter, as a grappler. First round heel hook, second round submission, first round submission, first round submission, fourth round submission, first round submission, first round submission, and first round submission. Every single one of this man's amateur wins are coming by first or second round submission. You guys can already tell where I'm going with this. James Leon's is the grappler. Cody Zappone is the striker, has a really good boxing, and some pretty good kickboxing skills. His only loss coming to Charlie Campbell by split decision as an amateur. First knockout, and 2 submission wins right there. I mean, he does have some pretty good striking, but so does James Leones. And James Leones has a really good instinct for using that striking to kind of make his opponents think that he's gonna keep the fight on the feet. But little do they know, he just kind of strikes with them for about 1.5 minutes. And then he shoots for that takedown, gets the fight down, and gets that submission. That's pretty much what happens to him every single time. So I'm 100% going with James Leones to win the fight by submission in the first or second round. I mean, the man's an absolute beast. His submission skills are just so good as an amateur fighter, but we'll see in his first ever professional fight inside of CFFC. After that, we have an undefeated middleweight fighter in Earl Small taking on Adam Walmsley. This is another one where I'm saying domination from Earl Small. 3 wins and 1 loss. First round twister submission win. First round triangle. First round Kimura. Third round rear naked choke submission win. A second round triangle and a second round rear naked. We don't really know how he won this fight right here against Dominic Day, but I assure you it was by submission. The man has amazing submission skills, just like the last fight that we're talking about on the fight card. Adam Walmsley, 2 wins and 1 loss. Decision win. First round knockout. Second round guillotine. First round armbar. Third round armbar. First knockout. First round knockout. In most of his fights, he tries to go for the knockout in the first round, tries to get that big shot to put the fight away in the first minute of the first round. That's usually what he tries to do. But when he fights guys like Earl Small, he kind of gets submitted. He doesn't have the best submission defense, has been submitted in his amateur career by rear naked choke submission. And Earl Small, we know him. He gets your back so easily. He doesn't even care for getting that rear naked. He likes to get really unique type of submissions, like a Kimura submission from the top, getting a twister submission, getting a triangle submission. He's just such an amazing submission guy. Adam Walmsley has some pretty good submission skills, has some pretty good power in his hands, but overall, if Adam Walmsley does not get the knockout in the first 25-30 seconds of the first round, Earl Small is going to get him in the clinch and go for the takedown, get him down, and get the submission. It's that simple for that fight, so 100%. I have Earl Small winning that fight by submission in the first or second round. Then we have Frank Wells and Timothy Quamba. Frank Wells is a beast, guys. 26, almost 27 years old, 5'11" inches tall. Timothy Quamba, we're not really sure how old he is, but he is 3 inches smaller than Frank Wells is in the fight. 1 win and 0 losses as an amateur. Got a decision win right here, a decision win, and did really horrible at the beginning of his amateur career. But guess what, guys? That was back in 2013. He kind of came back in 2018 right here with a draw against Jonathan Alvarez, and then had won a fight inside of CFFC, which he did really good. Showed he has a lot of really good cardio in his tank. And has the power to put you out, even in the later rounds. And when you see a guy as young as him, and at the beginning of his professional career, getting a third round knockout, showing that he still can land those powerful shots in the later rounds of the fight. Even if the first round doesn't go his way, the second round doesn't go his way, he can always come back in the third round, showing that he has a really good cardio. Timothy Quamba, 1 win and 0 losses. He likes to put his fights away in the first or second round. First round knockout win, first round submission win, first round arm triangle. He's more of a grappler, has some pretty good power in his hands. Goes out there and tries to get the first round knockout. If he does not get the first round knockout, I'm sorry to say Timothy Quamba, but you're most likely going to lose the fight because Frank Wells has a lot more cardio than you do. I saw a couple of fights that Timothy Quamba had where it went to the second, went to the third round, and he kind of faded out in those later rounds in his fights. Frank Wells does not do that. Even if Timothy Quamba goes out there and wins the first round, Frank Wells is going to come back in the second and third round, show his cardio and show his power in the later rounds, and maybe get a knockout and maybe get the decision. I think, like a lot of people are saying right here, he could get the knockout, but most likely, I think Wells is going to win the fight by 30-27, maybe even a 29-28 unanimous decision. This fight right here is amazing. Thomas Majewski, 28 years old, 2 wins and 0 losses as an amateur. Only 1 loss right here. First round submission, first round triangle, first round submission, first round knockout, first round net crank submission, finishing every single one of his fights by KO, TKO, or submission. And then we have Jonathan Parisima, if I'm saying the name correctly, a guillotine choke submission. He's very dangerous from the bottom. He has a lot of amateur fights. This is a win, second round armbar, first round knockout, first round guillotine, and first round north-south choke submission. Both fighters have really good submission skills. Jonathan Parisima has some good submission skills from the bottom, so that is something that Thomas Majewski is gonna have to worry for in the fight against Jonathan Parisima. But Thomas Majewski has really good takedowns, has really good wrestling. If he gets you down, he can defend the submissions from Jonathan Parisima, and the guillotines from the bottom. He's gonna defend those. I think Thomas Majewski is gonna keep the fight on top of Jonathan Persma on the ground in the fight. Sorry, I'm stuttering a lot right now. But Thomas Majewski, I think, is gonna get the fight to the ground. Maybe one round goes to Jonathan Persma if he keeps the fight on the feet for just one of those rounds. But overall, Thomas is gonna get the fight to the ground and most likely get a unanimous decision. A lot of people are saying that Majewski is gonna get a KO TKO in the fight. I think it's more likely we see submission from Thomas Majewski, but he does have some power in his hands, showing his last couple of fights. First knockout in first round. That was his only first round knockout, so I don't know why a lot of people are saying he's going to win the fight by KO TKO, but we'll see what happens. I think the most likely finish in the fight would be a first round submission or second round submission from Thomas Majewski, but I think this fight's going to go all the way, and I have Thomas Majewski winning the fight by unanimous decision. Then we have Solomon Renfro and Nick Ali. I'm going to say it right now, domination, and domination. Solomon Renfro just goes for takedown, over and over and over again. 6 wins and only 1 loss. That one loss coming to a really good submission artist in Mac Mallah. My first round, a rear naked choke submission. Before that, first round Anaconda, decision win. And a decision win, all inside a CFFC, which is very, very impressive. As an amateur, only 1 loss by split decision. First knockout, second knockout, and then 3 decision wins right here. Then 2 first knockouts at the beginning of his career. As an amateur, he was kind of trying to develop his striking game because he is more of a wrestler. In his amateur career, he was trying to keep the fight on the feet and test himself in the striking game, which he did really, really well. And getting 4 first knockouts as an amateur fighter. As a pro, he kind of went back to his to wrestling in most of his fights and trying to get the decision or submission or TKO in most of those fights. I think the same thing is going to happen in the fight. I don't really give much of a chance to Nick Ali in the fight just because he's more of a striker, tries to keep the fight on the feet, and when you're fighting a guy like Solomon Renfro, who just goes for like 5, 6, 7 takedowns in every single one of his fights. He's just so relentless. So I'm going with Solomon Renfro to win the fight by submission in the second round, or if the fight goes all the way, to have Solomon Renfro to win the fight by 30-27 unanimous decision. The co-main event is actually pretty close. Let's see right here if I can find it. I don't know where it is. Yeah, right here. So, Devin Goodell, -150, and then Katan Paliev at +120. It's a really close fight on the betting odds, and then the tabloid predictions are literally 50-50. You look right here, 53% going for Paliev to win the fight by KO TKO, and then 47% going for Goodell to win the fight, mainly by unanimous decision. Katan Paliev is 37 years old right now, 6 foot tall, so a humongous age advantage for Devin Goodell in the fight, as he is only 28 years old in the prime of his professional MMA career. Katan Paliev, 5 wins and 1 loss. First knockout win, first on neck crank submission win, first on injury. I'm not really sure what happened there. His only loss coming to Vitaly Nemchina, who has 12 wins and 2 losses, who's doing really, really good. His only loss to Rodolfo Vieira and Piotr Suros, who are very, very good fighters inside of ACA and inside of the UFC. So he's fought in some very legit competition in his professional career. Devin Goodell, 28 years old, 3 wins and 0 losses. As an amateur, first knockout winner Jamie Hernandez, decision win, first knockout, decision win, and first round submission win. As a professional fighter, has kind of made his game more of a submission-based type of game. Decision win, and first round submission win. Tries to get the fight to the ground as soon as possible. His last win was really, really impressive. He got the takedown, I believe, in like 25 seconds into that first round, and got the fight down. Went for a lot of ground and pound, and he showed after like, I don't know, 100 shots on the ground, he finally got the back of Danny Garcia, pulled him down, and got that rear naked. A very impressive performance there against Danny Garcia in the fight. I think this fight is either going to be a submission from Devin Goodell in the first round, a knockout from Katan Paliev in the first round, a decision win from Katan Paliev, just dominating the fight on the feet and winning the fight with 30-27 unanimous decision, or Devin Goodell keeping the fight on the ground, going for submission over and over and over again, beating some ground and pound, getting some control time and winning the fight that way. It's just striker versus grappler in my opinion, and I'm going to be going with the grappler and Devin Goodell to win the fight by unanimous decision. I think it's going to be close. I think it's probably going to be a 29-28. I think each one of these rounds are going to be very, very close because Katan Paliev has some pretty good takedown defense, some pretty good submission defense, but Devin Goodell, his takedowns, he's just so relentless with going for takedown. So we'll see what happens there, but I have Devin Goodell winning the fight by 29-28, a unanimous decision. And in the main event for the CFFC welterweight belt, This fight is a really good grappling fight between Basil Hafez and Evan Cutts, who most of both fighters' wins are coming by submission. Basil Hafez 6 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw. 4 submission wins as a professional fighter. 3 submission wins as an amateur. His losses as a professional fighter, both coming by decision. Just got the belt inside the CFFC at CFFC 89 against an undefeated fighter in the welterweight division in Christian Savoy. Again, as I said at the beginning of the video, I did not think Basil Hafez was gonna win the fight, but as soon as I saw Basil Hafez get the takedown really early in that fight, I was like, alright, I think the underdog is probably going to do pretty good in the fight, because he got the takedown so easily against a really good striker who everyone thought was going to get the knockout against Basil Hafez in the fight, but Basil Hafez showed he has really good takedowns and showed he has really good grappling. Going for the armbar, and right as they switched positions and his opponent got on top of him, he immediately went for the triangle choke submission and got it with 45 seconds left in that round. Evan Cutts, 30 years old, 11 wins and 4 losses, also has a lot of submissions on his record, 8 submission wins and 3 decision wins. He hasn't had any fights inside of CFFC. First one submission win, decision win, inside of the LFA over Ramiz Abrahimaj, who had a fight inside the inside of the UFC a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, I'm sorry, against Max Griffin. But he's fought some pretty good competition inside the LFA, inside of KOTC. But guess what, guys? Basil Hafez is the bigger fighter in the fight. I think his wrestling is better, but I think Evan Cutts has a grappling advantage. The striking is sort of iffy. They both have pretty good striking. Both don't even have any knockouts on their record, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, I don't think either fighter has any knockouts on their records. Both fighters don't really have the best striking in their game. I think Basil Hafez is probably gonna go for takedowns, try to get some control time. I don't really think he's gonna go for the submission, because if he goes for the submission against Evan Cutts could reverse the submission, or reverse the position and get on top of Basil Hafez, which is one thing that Basil Hafez does not want to happen in the fight. So I think he's gonna go for takedowns and get a lot of ground and pound, get a lot of control time, and win the fight by 29-28 unanimous decision. But yeah, those are my full card predictions for CFFC 94, Hafez versus Cutts. 10 fights in the entire fight card. 2 prelim fights that I'm not gonna really look at. Just these fights that are professional MMA fights. I have Joe Tazzano winning his fight. I have James Leone winning his fight. I have Earl Small winning his fight. I have Frank Wells winning his fight. I have Thomas Majewski winning his fight. I have Solomon Renfro winning his fight. I have Devin Goodell winning his fight. And I have Basil Hafez winning his fight as CFFC 94. A really good fight card in my opinion. A lot of good grapplers on the fight card. A lot of guys that have really good wrestling and really good submission skills. So we'll see what happens at CFFC 94. Cannot wait for this fight card to happen.